So we've got these shifts, right? They're up on the board. Simple as that. If we can figure out which one of these 4 graphs we're in, we can know what's going to happen to price and quantity. So that's the question. How can we turn a real world change into a shift in one of those curves, which will then tell us what's going to happen to price and quantity, right? That's our whole goal. We want to know how we can make sort of anticipations about what's going to change in the market based on some real world change. We're going to start by thinking about what's going to change the demand curve around, what's going to shift the demand curve left or right. And there's 5 sort of categories that we can think about this in, 5 big ones. And don't worry, I'm going to go through these and I'm going to go through each of them one at a time. We've got income, the prices of related goods, tastes, expectations, and the number of buyers. Let's talk about what each of these things are. Income. So, demand curve is all about, for a given price, how many units people want to buy. Not to shock anybody here, but the more money people have, more stuff they're going to be able to buy with that money, right? So, for a given price, as income goes up, you're going to get people buying more stuff, and so therefore demand will shift to the right. The amount of money people have affects how many units they'd be interested in buying at any given price. Most of the time, this means that as incomes rise, for the people who you are selling to, the demand for that product goes up. This is what's called a normal good, because this is what normally happens. Price incomes go up, people have more money at a given price, they're going to be able to buy more. So demand shifts to the right. We get an increase in equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. This doesn't always happen. Sometimes an increase in income leads to a decrease in demand. Those are called inferior goods, the kind of things that you only buy because you don't have any money. So then once you get money, you stop buying them. Right? So for those kind of goods, as incomes go up, demand goes down. This might be something like, the cheap ramen noodles that you get, like Top Ramen or whatever. Whereas like, a nice bowl of ramen from a restaurant would be a normal good. You make more money, you buy less Top Ramen and more good ramen, right? So as incomes go up, this is what it looks like for Top Ramen. This is what it looks like for good ramen. I guess Top Ramen is fine. There's nothing wrong. So the idea, people's income goes up, they have more money, they can buy more stuff, even if the price was the same as it was before, which is of course the definition of a demand shift. Always be thinking, if the price stayed the same, would people buy more or less of this thing? If the answer is that they wouldn't change it, if the price was the same, then there's not a demand shift. But here, their incomes have changed, so they are going to buy more or less of it, which is a demand shift. So an example, if the minimum wage goes up, people who have minimum wages get more money. Their incomes go up. They can buy more stuff. So demand for the kinds of things that minimum wage workers would like to buy shifts to the right. As the incomes are higher for that group, they can afford more stuff. Demand is going to go up for those products. Next, prices of related goods. What I mean by a related good. A related good is anything that sort of, if you have one of it, or one thing, it makes the other thing more or less desirable. And this can happen in 2 ways. It can make it more desirable or it can make it less desirable. Right? So 2 goods are what are called substitutes if having one makes the other one less desirable. So for example, butter and margarine, you have a whole tub of margarine sitting at home, you're at the store, you're not going to buy any butter, right? Or you're going to buy less of it anyway. And so butter and margarine are substitutes. They sort of do a similar thing. So if one of them, you have more of it, you don't need as much of the other. You substitute it between them. Another way it can happen is 2 goods are complements. If having one makes the other more valuable, they tend to go together, be used together. So like hot dogs and hot dog buns. If you have like, a bunch of extra hot dog buns at your house, you might go buy some hot dogs to put in those buns, right? So how does this work out with prices? Well, we think about what's going on here. Imagine, for instance, that there's a supply shift in some market. Right? Let's say that the supply of hot dog buns has gone up. For some reason, we don't know why. It's just gone up. What's going to happen to the price of hot dog buns when the supply of hot dog buns goes up? It's going to go down, right? So supply shifts to the right, price is going to go down, and quantity goes up, right? So people are going to have more hot dog buns, and it's cheaper for them to buy, right? So remember, this is not a demand shift for hot dog buns, right? Because we're just talking about the price changing, but this is what's called a shift along the demand curve, right? The demand curve is still the same, we're moving to a different point on it, where we're buying more hot dog buns, okay? So a supply shift in hot dog buns meant that people have more hot dog buns now, which means they're going to want more hot dogs to go with those buns, right? So supply shift in hot dog buns is going to have more hot dog buns. Means that people are going to want more hot dogs to go along with it. So if this is the hot dog bun market, here's the hot dog market. Okay, so we can predict what's going to happen in one market based on shifts in a different market entirely. It's going to change how many units people are buying. So if the price of a substitute increases, demand is going to increase. The price of a complement increases, demand decreases. Right? Again, you can try to memorize this, but it's a lot easier if you just think the logic every time. More hot dog buns, more hot dogs. Right? So think about the substitute example, butter and margarine. Let's say that supply has increased for margarine. Let's say that the price of vegetable oil went down, so now margarine is cheaper to make. People want to make more margarine. So supply shifting to the right for margarine. People are going to buy more margarine. They need less butter. That's going to be this over here. Right? It's actually easier to work through the logic of all this than to try and memorize all this stuff. One more example, let's talk about cars and car insurance. Supply curve for cars. Let's say it shifts to the right for some reason. Maybe steel gets cheaper. Right? We get an influx of steel, a lot of steel going around, makes it cheaper to make a car. So if steel goes down, supply of cars is going to go to the right. You're going to be like, hey, I got all this cheap steel around, I want to make you a car. So the quantity is going to go up, price is going to go down. And as that happens, you got more people with cars around. They want to buy some car insurance to go along with it. It's going to increase the demand for car insurance, which will raise the price and quantity of car insurance. Same idea with bus passes, which are a substitute for cars, right? Car insurance is a complement because you use those two things together. Bus pass is a substitute. More car you got, the less of a bus pass you need. So that same increase in the reduction in the price of steel, which increases the supply of cars, is going to make fewer people want a bus pass. Because remember, there's some people there who are just sort of on the margin, right? They're just sort of like, do I get a car? Do I get a bus pass? I don't know, I can go either way. The drop in the price of steel and thus the drop in the price of cars is going to tilt them right over the edge to get that car instead of the bus pass. And those are the people who are going to be driving this reduction in demand. Any questions on that? Next one's pretty obvious. Tastes change. Sometimes people just want things more or less at given times because they have decided that they want them more or less. So certain things go in or out of style. That's going to shift demand in or out, right? Because what does demand represent? Marginal benefit. If for whatever reason, right, that subjective marginal benefit of how much better would my life be with this product goes up or down, that's going to be reflected in the demand curve because that's exactly what the demand curve represents. You want something more, demand goes up. You want something less, demand goes down. Nothing too surprising about that.